Hello and welcome to this week's Women's Football Chat, your weekly show where we go through everything that has happened over the past 7 days in the third and fourth tiers of women's football in England. That's the FA Women's National League, and we look ahead to what you can look forward to in the coming week. My name is Chris Gadsby. I'm here every Thursday at 6 p.m. to bring you the very latest from the FAWNL. All of the results, the news and the fixtures. Now, this week, there's not a huge amount to talk about in terms of results because the majority of teams were on County Cup weekend, and we don't do the County Cup on this show. And what we have got coming up is the few fixtures that did take place, a look ahead at the few fixtures that are coming up this weekend, because primarily it is the second round of the Women's FA Cup. And there are plenty of ties to get into in that. All but one of the ties this weekend involve an FAWNL side. But before we get into all of that, let's have a look at the results from the leagues over the past 7 days. Let's start in the north, just the one game. Liverpool Feds 2, Loughborough Lightning 0. As I said, most of the teams in County Cup action. Goals for Liverpool Feds in this one, 2 in 2 minutes. Quickfire double put them ahead of Loughborough Lightning. Nicola James in the 62nd minute and Paige Cole in the 63rd minute. As I said, a lot of teams, and I think this needs a bit of a look at as well. I'll get it out before we dive in too much further. I think some of the county cups need a bit of a revamp as well. If we just look at some of these results from the Northern Premier Division in the County Cup, you've got Stoke City beating Leek Town by 10 goals to 0, and that was a modest scoreline compared to some. Over in the West Midlands, Cuford Eagles lost to West Bromwich Albion by 17 goals to 0. Boldmere St Michael's beat Sutton United by 17 goals to 0. Wolverhampton Wanderers won away at Chelmsford Colts by 19 goals to 0. They were 12-0 up at half time. And I'm really not sure what those sorts of games achieve. It doesn't benefit anybody. It's an injury risk to all the players involved. 19-0, 17-0, 17-0. You're kind of left thinking, well, what's the point? Perhaps you look at doing a bit of an FA Cup style thing where the lower teams play first and then they come and play the higher sides. But then I do think as well there is some form of inevitability about the sides in the third tier that are playing in the County Cup coming up against teams in the seventh tier. You are going to get these scorelines, which is why you very often see the same teams in the semi-finals and the finals of these competitions. But that's a debate for an entire other episode, and of course that's down to the individual county FAs. So yes, Liverpool Feds beating Loughborough Lightning by 2 goals to 0. It means they're up a couple of places in the Northern Premier Division. They're in 7th spot now on 12 points from their 10 games. AFC Fylde and Boldmere St Michael's both drop a place to 8th and 9th respectively. Of course, as that was the only game, nothing else in the Northern Premier Division has changed. Southern Premier Division, there were actually 3 games taking place. Milton Keynes Dons beating London Bees by 2 goals to 0. Molly Cooper and Nicole Pepper getting the 2 goals for Milton Keynes. And Ipswich, 5 goals to 0 winners away at Plymouth Argyle. A brace for Natasha Thomas, 1 for Bonnie Elizabeth Horwood, 1 for Sarah Bracero Chiara, and 1 for Anna Gray. A convincing victory for Ipswich Town. And then perhaps the game of the weekend, particularly for Billericay Town fans, a 3-2 away win against Watford. Watford's goals both coming in the second half. And there's a goal missing for Billericay Town as well. So we've got a goal for Jessica King and Holly Turner for Billericay Town. I'm just seeing if there is another one up there. No, there isn't. That's the 2 goals of the 3 that were put on there. 2 goals for Watford, Annie Lee Rossiter in the 73rd minute and Gemma Davison in the 82nd minute. So late on goals for Watford, but Billericay winning by 3 goals to 2 in that one. Great result for them. And again, with the County Cup, you've got Oxford winning 9-0, Crawley winning 8-1. Some closer games. Well, you say that. Ebbsfleet lost to Gillingham by 2-1. But then you've got Portsmouth firsts going through on penalties against Portsmouth Development. And I would suspect that there was a bit of inter-team mixing in that as well. Although I don't know that for certain. Southern table. The only change that's made from those wins, because Ipswich and Billericay both stay exactly where they are with their victories. They're in 4th and 5th respectively. MK Dons have jumped a couple of places. They're now in 8th. London Bees down to 9th after MK Dons, of course, beat them. Bridgewater United not playing. They're also down to they're down to 10th now. They are 3 points clear of the relegation zone, but with a game in hand. Division 1 Midlands, Leafield Athletic 2, Lincoln City 3. Goals in this one. Lincoln City in control, although it was a bit of a back and forth game. It was only until 5 minutes until the end of the game that Lincoln went the 3-2 in front. Lucy Farrow put them 1-0 up on the 33rd minute before Chloe Shirley pulled one back for Leafield Athletic, and it was 1-1 at half time. Lucy Farrow then got her second of the game 5 minutes after the break to make it 2-1. That lasted all of 6 minutes. Leonie Joyce getting the equaliser there to make it 2-2, and it stayed like that until Jessica Razoo in the 85th minute put Lincoln in front away at Leafield. They win by 3-2. In the other game, Long Eaton United won, Wem Town 8. A very convincing victory for Wem Town ahead of a tough FA Cup fixture for them, but we will come on to that later. A hat-trick for Kimberly Bebbington, 2 for Katie Doster, and 1 each for Taylor Davis, Antonia Kingscott and Sasha Woodhouse. 8 goals for Wem Town. Sommer Smith with the only goal for Long Eaton United. What that means for the table: Lincoln City and Wem Town up 2 places. Sheffield and Lincoln Town down 2 places. Sheffield and Lincoln Town not playing. Long Eaton United still at the bottom. Leafield Athletic remain in 5th. But Lincoln are up to 7th. Wem Town are up to 8th. And Sheffield and Lincoln Town both drop a couple of places. So good weekend for Lincoln and Wem, who have pulled themselves 5 points clear of the drop, although they do, Northampton Town, who are in that relegation zone at the moment, have 2 games in hand. Let's look at the North then. It's not the place to go if you want goals, but it is the place to go if you want plenty of games. Chorley beating Norton Stockton Ancients by 1-0. Sophie Rotherham with the only goal in that one. Durham Sestra beating York City by the same scoreline. Ellen Turnbull just before the hour mark with the only goal of the game there. And at Middlesbrough, they beat Merseyrail by 1-0. A first half goal for Jessica Dawson, the only goal in that one. Where there were more goals was at Stockport, a 1-1 draw between themselves and Hull City. Stockport taking the lead. Maria Figueiredo once again, 50th minute. Liberty Bott, though, getting an equaliser for Hull City 2 minutes from time. And it was 1-1 there. So only 5 goals spread across 4 matches. What it means, though, there is quite a bit of movement. Durham Sestra with that victory and Newcastle not playing. That was Durham's game in hand. And Durham go back to the top of the table by a single point over Newcastle. Then in the mid-table, Hull City and York City, they have swapped places with Hull drawing, York City losing. It's that point that Hull needed. So Hull are now in 7th. York City dropped down to 8th. And the victory for Chorley over Norton Stockton Ancients lifts them from the bottom of the table out of the relegation zone. They're into 10th at the expense of Merseyrail and Bradford City. Merseyrail with the defeat, of course. They're on 7 points in 11th spot. Bradford City bottom of the table with 6. But as you can see from the table there, if you're watching the video version, there's only 5 points separate Bradford City at the foot of the table to Hull City, who are in 7th spot at the moment. So there is still plenty of movement that will happen undoubtedly in the second half of the season. Let's go to the southeast, because this is where we need to talk a bit more as well. So Ashford Town against London Seaward then ended up not happening. So then you go to Chesham United 0, Actonians 4. Actonians a brace for Jasmine Williamson, 1 for Rochelle Shakes and 1 for Maria Ledsma-Visso put Actonians 4-0 up away at Chesham United. But Cambridge United beat Hounslow away by 12-0. 6 goals, a double hat-trick for Sarah Wiltshire, One hat-trick for Francesca Partridge for 9 goals, and then a goal for Lauren Rouse, Sydney Naylor and Alicia Stockjoe-Down. Made it 12-0 to Cambridge United against a Hounslow side who managed to, well, according to this at the least, only played with 10 players, and they had a substitute in Danny Holland, who came on with 15 minutes to go. So Hounslow playing the entire game with 10, and then having the substitute come on as well. So a difficult afternoon for them. They lose by 12 goals to 0. Then on Tuesday night, they faced Actonians and lost by 15 goals to 0. Now, in this one, again, they played the entire game with 10, but had no substitutes this time. And this game was actually stopped before the 90 minutes because Hounslow didn't have enough players left to finish the game, which tells you that they went from 10 down to 6. So, really struggling are Hounslow at the moment. You wonder how long this can continue to go on for because they can't field a full 11 at the moment. Goals for Actonians, a hat-trick for Tiny Chambers and a hat-trick for George Goldsworthy. 4 goals for Jasmine Williamson is 10. There's a brace for Molly O'Reilly in the second half. Then Rochelle Shakes again, Shauna Munelli, and Rhiannon Ishmael. 15-0. So Hounslow, in the space of 3 days, have lost on aggregate 27-0 to 2 sides in Division 1 South East. They're only fielding 10 players on the pitch. Not sure, because obviously there's not much information around at the moment surrounding Hounslow, if they've actually got a goalkeeper in at the minute. They had a goalkeeper at the start of the season. She got injured. So if they have a proper goalkeeper at the minute, if there's an outfield player that's going in goal, which is potentially one of the reasons they're conceding so many goals. But if we look at the Division 1 South East table, you'll see at the bottom there, they have played 6 and have a goal difference of minus 61. They are averaging conceding 10 goals a game. They're yet to get off the mark. Cambridge City above them only have 3 points. So, of course, Hounslow could survive if they are able to pick up some points from somewhere. But you go into every game at the moment wondering how Hounslow are going to carry on this season. Now, they have now caught up, you will see. They've played the same number of games as Chesham United and AFC Wimbledon. They're only 1 game behind the vast majority of the league. So it isn't as though they're now postponing all their games because they can't raise a team, although they did do that a couple of weeks ago. It is a case now of they are able to put a team together just about. 10 players is what you need to start a game according to the league rules. But then, obviously, if a player takes a knock, they haven't got a substitute. They're down to 9, down to 8, and then it just becomes impossible for them. And you end up with this situation where you're losing 12-0 at the weekend. You've then got to go again 2 days later, and you're losing 15-0. And I don't know how viable that is, where at this current rate, don't forget it's a 22-game season, you're going to be looking at a minus 200 goal difference. And nobody wants to see that. And I'm sure the players don't want to play in that. So we'll just have to keep our eye on what happens over the course of the season. Of course, if Hounslow were to go and not be able to finish the season, then you end up with no relegation out of Division 1 South East. So that's then a situation where particularly when there's no prize money involved, what do the rest of the league, anybody from, and I'll try and be not too harsh here, but let's say anybody from Actonians down, who are already 9 points away from the top of the table, #United, where are they going to drop enough points? They didn't last year. They don't look like they're going to this year. What have those teams got to play for once you're out of the cups as well? And then it becomes almost a bit of a nothing league. There's no threat of relegation from below. You know you're not going to go up. So there's almost nothing to play for other than the enjoyment of playing football, which I'm sure is what a lot of the players are playing the football for. But everybody has ambitions, at least at the start of the season, of challenging up at the top. If it's not going to be your year, but there's no threat of relegation. What do you end up playing for other than the enjoyment of it? Right, Division 1 South West, just 2 games to talk about in this one. Larkhall Athletic 1, Keynsham Town 0. Maya Brain in the 73rd minute getting the goal for Larkhall Athletic, and Cardiff City continue their 100% start to the season. They beat Mainhead United by 3-0. Kerry Bartlett 4 minutes in, Chloe Lloyd in the 65th minute and Grace Horrell in the 90th minute. 3-0 for Cardiff City. One thing that is clear is that teams maybe are starting to get a bit of an idea about Cardiff because they're not winning by 6, 7, 8 goals like they were at the start of the year, but they are still continually winning their games. They, of course, remain top of the table. They're now 5 points clear of Exeter. Mainhead United drop into the relegation zone because of Larkhall Athletic's victory over Keynsham Town. Larkhall Athletic now up 2 places above Keynsham Town and Mainhead United. They're 3 points clear of the drop, but Mainhead United do have 4 games in hand over Leafield Athletic, who have played considerably more than anybody else in Division 1 South West. They're going to be in for a very quiet back end of the season. Right, let's have a look then at the Cup. Oh, wait. There was one FAWNL Plate first round game scheduled to be played this weekend, but it was victim of the weather yet again. So Queen's Park Rangers against Portishead Town was postponed because Portishead Town is still in the FA Cup. It means that first round game is now going to be played on the weekend of all the second round games. Now, while that's not made clear by the league or by full time, don't worry, I'll make it clear on this show. So if you're not sure who's playing who, just keep watching the show or listening to the show and it'll all be made clear for you. Let's have a look then at the fixtures coming up in the coming 7 days. I'm going to start with the League ones, then I'm going to finish with the FA Cup. Northern Premier Division, then Boldmere St Michael's against Derby County. Both of these sides are out. Boldmere St Michael's in 9th. They could go as high as 7th. Derby County in 5th, and that is where they will stay even with a defeat. Their goal difference is too good for Stoke City below them to overtake them. Everybody in the south is involved in the FA Cup, so let's move through to the Midlands. Long Eaton United against Lincoln City. Long Eaton United, of course, bottom of the table. They can't get out of the bottom 2, but they can get off the bottom of the table with a victory over Lincoln City, who are in 7th. Lincoln can get themselves as high as 5th. On top of the table, Stourbridge, who are out the FA Cup to Peterborough, of course. Stourbridge have the opportunity to put themselves 11 points clear at the top of the table if they beat Leafield Athletic, who are currently in 5th. Leafield Athletic could get themselves as high as 3rd, realistically, with a victory over Stourbridge. Division 1 North, one game happening tonight. Hull City against Barnsley. Hull City in 7th, Barnsley in 4th. Hull can't go any higher, but a loss could mean that on goal difference, York City overtake them. Barnsley could get themselves up into 2nd with a victory away at Hull. And then towards the bottom of the table on Sunday, Bradford City in 6th Bradford City in 12th on 6 points. Played Chorley in 10th on 8 points. Bradford could move themselves out of the relegation zone with a win. Chorley could go up 1 place to 9th. Division 1 South East, Ashford Town against Hounslow. Ashford Town in 8th. Hounslow, of course, bottom of the table. Ashford won't go any higher, but they will give themselves a 10-point gap to the relegation zone should they beat Hounslow. And Cambridge City against Chesham United, that is 10th against 9th. A win for Cambridge City would put a 6-point gap between themselves and Hounslow. A win for Chesham United would move them up to 8th and make that gap 9 points. And in Division 1 South West, AFC Bournemouth against Chelsea. Bournemouth in 3rd, Chelsea in 5th. Bournemouth could put themselves up to 2nd with a win. Larkhall Athletic against Maidenhead United, that's 9th against 11th. Maidenhead United with a victory would lift themselves out of the relegation zone. Moneyfields against AFC St Austell. Moneyfields are in 7th. They could go as high as 5th with a win. And AFC St Austell, of course, yet to get off the mark this season, although they have been close on a few occasions. Right then, let's look at the FA Cup to finish off this week's show. As I said, I've listed all of the second round ties here because there was only one that didn't involve an FAWNL side, so I thought I may as well include it as well. So this is, these are, let me get this right, ties to take us down to 28. There's 28 ties in here. I was trying to find the right number off the top of my head. 28 ties in here to take us down to 28 teams. Then in the third round, the championship sides are going to be added in to make it 32 teams again. That will then, that will make it 40 teams. Then we go down to 20 in round 3, add the Super League sides in to make it 32. Then it's 16, 8, 4, 2, etc. Down to the final at Wembley. So, second round ties, these are all being played this weekend. Fylde against Middlesbrough, third tier against fourth tier. Fifth tier, Cheadle Town Stingers take on third tier Burnley. Huddersfield Town against Durham Sestra. Durham of the fourth tier, of course, top of the fourth tier at the minute against third tier Huddersfield Town. Fifth tier Redcar Town against Leeds United of Division 1 North. The lowest ranked side left in the competition, that's Consett of tier 7, take on Stockport County of tier 4. Newcastle United against Barnsley, an all Division 1 North tie. And Liverpool Feds against Merseyrail, that's a local derby there. Should point out, of course, these are still regionalised ties at the moment. Wem Town of the fourth tier host third tier Nottingham Forest. Wem Town, of course, coming off that big victory at the weekend, so they'll be full of confidence. Forest second in the Northern Premier Division. Loughborough Lightning against Stoke City, an all third tier tie, all Northern Premier Division tie. Lichfield City of the fifth tier take on West Bromwich Albion. Norwich City of Division 1 South East against Sutton Coldfield Town of tier 5. Sporting Cowser and Peterborough United go head to head. Wolverhampton Wanderers, top of the Northern Premier Division, against Northampton Town of Division 1 Midlands. Coventry Sphinx of the 6th tier take on Solihull Moors of Division 1 Midlands. Ashford United of Tier 6 against Actonians of Division 1 South East. And Ipswich Town of the 3rd tier against London Seawood, again of Division 1 South East. Southampton Women's face London Bees of the Southern Premier Division. Southern Premier Division side Portsmouth take on 5th tier Bowers and Pitsea. AFC Wimbledon of Division 1 South East take on promoted Billericay Town, of course, who were in that division last year. Dartford of Tier 5 against Hashtag United, currently top of Division 1 South East. Dulwich Hamlet against Gillingham of the Southern Premier Division. Watford against Crawley Wasps, an all Southern Premier Division tie in that one. And Milton Keynes Dons, also of Tier 3, against Tier 5 Worthing. Swindon Town take on Plymouth Argyle, that's 4th tier against 3rd tier. Finally then, Bournemouth Sports against Torquay United, 2 5th tier sides, the only one that doesn't involve an FAWNL side, so we're guaranteed to have a 5th tier side, at least one of course, in the third round draw for the FA Cup. Cardiff City, 100% record, they take on Keynsham Town, who are also in Division 1 South West, but struggling in 10th, another side that came down of course last year. Liskeard Athletic against Oxford United, Oxford United going well in the Southern Premier Division. They take on Liskeard Athletic of Tier 5. And finally, Portishead Town against Exeter City, an all Tier 4 Division 1 South West tie. And those are the fixtures for the second round of the Women's FA Cup this weekend. And that will do it for this week's Women's Football Chat. Thank you very much for watching and or listening, of course, if you're listening to the audio version of this. So plenty of FA Cup stuff to talk about next weekend. And then the weekend after that, which is the 4th, it is the second round, or first round in some cases, of the Cup and the Plate. So it'll be a reduced fixture list in that as well. And then, of course, after that, it's the FA Cup third round day. And then after that, we've got one round of league fixtures before Christmas. But because of all these postponements, some teams may well be playing nothing but Cup until Christmas. So, takeaways from this week's show is that the Cups really are taking over. The leagues are also really starting to take shape now. We're nearly at the halfway point. Some teams only a game or two shy of the halfway point. And how long can Hounslow keep going as they are? Thank you very much for watching and or listening to the Women's Football Chat this week, and goodbye.